I pray because I can't help myself. I pray because I'm helpless. I pray because the need flows out of me all the time, waking and sleeping. These words, penned by the celebrated author C.S. Lewis, capture a universal truth about the human experience, our innate longing for connection with something greater than ourselves. Prayer, in its purest form, is the language of this longing. It is the bridge we build between the finite and the infinite, a lifeline in times of trouble, and a source of solace and strength in our daily lives. But for many, the act of prayer can feel daunting, even elusive. We grapple with distractions, wrestle with doubts, and often question the very efficacy of our pleas. How can we cultivate a deeper, more meaningful prayer life? How do we move beyond the rote recitation of words to a place of genuine communion with the divine? Clive Staples Lewis, better known as C.S. Lewis, stands as a literary giant of the 20th century. His works, ranging from profound theological treatises to beloved children's tales, have captivated generations. Born in Belfast, Ireland in 1898, Lewis's early life was marked by intellectual curiosity and spiritual skepticism. He navigated atheism and agnosticism before finding his way back to Christianity in his early 30s. Lewis's conversion ignited a passion for sharing the transformative power of faith. For many, the very idea of prayer evokes a mix of emotions, not all of them positive. We may feel a sense of duty, a societal expectation to pray, particularly in times of need. Yet this sense of obligation can be coupled with a nagging sense of inadequacy. We might question whether our prayers are good enough, whether we are using the right words, or if anyone is even listening on the other end. This internal struggle is not unique to any one denomination or belief system. It is a universal human experience, this wrestling with the unseen, this yearning for connection amidst the uncertainties of life. C.S. Lewis himself, despite his towering intellect and deep faith, readily acknowledged the challenges inherent in prayer. In our modern world, distractions abound. Our attention is constantly pulled in 1,000 different directions by the relentless demands of work, family, and the ever-present allure of technology. Finding time and space for quiet contemplation, let alone dedicated prayer, can feel like an insurmountable challenge. Even when we do manage to carve out a few moments for prayer, our minds often race with a torrent of thoughts, to-do lists, anxieties, and the endless chatter of the outside world. This difficulty in disconnecting from the noise of modern life can lead to feelings of frustration and disillusionment with prayer. C.S. Lewis recognized this modern dilemma, this struggle to maintain a connection with the spiritual realm amidst the cacophony of contemporary life. Another common obstacle to a fulfilling prayer life is the weight of our own imperfections. We are acutely aware of our shortcomings, our failings, and the vast chasm that often seems to separate us from the divine. This awareness can lead to feelings of unworthiness, a sense that we are not deserving of God's love, let alone an answer to our prayers. C.S. Lewis understood this human tendency towards self-condemnation. He knew that our imperfections, our flaws and failings, are an intrinsic part of our human experience. Yet he also believed that God's love for us is not contingent upon our perfection. In Letters to Malcolm, C.S. Lewis delves into the heart of prayer, addressing the very concerns that often hinder our attempts at genuine communion with God. One of his most reassuring insights is the emphasis on sincerity over perfection. Lewis reassures us that God is not looking for perfectly crafted sentences or eloquent pronouncements. Our prayers need not be literary masterpieces, devoid of any grammatical error or theological inconsistency. Instead, what truly matters is the posture of our hearts, the genuine desire to connect with our Creator. Lewis encourages us to approach prayer with childlike simplicity, to speak to God as we would to a trusted friend or confidant. We need not shy away from expressing our doubts, fears, and uncertainties. Imagine for a moment a child approaching their parent with a heartfelt request. The child's language might be simple, their grammar far from perfect, but their sincerity is undeniable. They come with open hands and an open heart, expressing their needs and desires without reservation. Lewis suggests that this is the essence of true prayer, a raw and honest dialogue with our Heavenly Father. It's about stripping away the pretense, the carefully constructed facades we often present to the world, and coming to God just as we are. Lewis understood that prayer is not about impressing God with our eloquence or theological knowledge. Throughout Letters to Malcolm, Lewis normalizes the struggle in prayer. He acknowledges that there will be times when our prayers feel dry and unanswered, when doubt clouds our faith, and when the heavens seem silent. But Lewis urges us to view these seasons not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. Just as a muscle grows stronger through resistance, so too does our faith deepen through the challenges we encounter in our prayer lives. Lewis reminds us that even the giants of faith, figures like Jacob, who wrestled with God, experienced seasons of questioning and doubt. These struggles, far from being a sign of weakness, are actually indicative of a deepening relationship with God. One of the most powerful aspects of Lewis's perspective on prayer is his emphasis on the courage it takes to be vulnerable before God. It's easy to offer up superficial prayers, to thank God for our blessings or to ask for his help in times of need. But it takes real courage to open up the deepest recesses of our hearts, to expose our wounds and insecurities, and to admit our need for his grace. Lewis encourages us to embrace this vulnerability, to trust that God can handle our honesty, our doubts, and even our anger. He reminds us that God's love is not contingent upon our perfection, and it is in the safety of that unconditional love that we find the freedom to be truly ourselves. In the Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis masterfully employs satire to expose the subtle ways in which our enemy, the devil, seeks to undermine our spiritual growth, particularly through distractions and manipulations that hinder our prayer life. This epistolary novel, told through the correspondence between two demons, Wormwood and his uncle Screwtape, provides a chilling glimpse into the tactics used to divert us from seeking God. Wormwood, the less experienced demon, is tasked with tempting a newly converted Christian, and his reports to Screwtape reveal the insidious strategies employed to weaken the man's faith. One of the key takeaways from the Screwtape Letters is the realization that the greatest obstacles to prayer often reside not in external circumstances, but within our own hearts and minds. Screwtape advises Wormwood to exploit the man's natural tendencies towards pride, self-righteousness, and the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. These internal distractions, often disguised as harmless or even virtuous pursuits, can effectively extinguish the flame of prayer before it can truly ignite. Screwtape emphasizes the importance of keeping the man focused on himself, his own desires, and his perceived needs. The demon encourages Wormwood to cultivate a spirit of self-absorption, to make the man believe that his own happiness and fulfillment should be his primary concerns. This inward focus, Screwtape explains, creates a barrier between the man and God, making it increasingly difficult for him to approach the throne of grace with humility and a contrite heart. Lewis brilliantly illustrates how easily our perception of ourselves and the world around us can become distorted by self-centeredness. When we are consumed by our own desires and ambitions, we lose sight of God's greater plan for our lives. Our prayers become transactional, focused on getting what we want rather than seeking God's will. Pride, Screwtape reminds Wormwood, is one of the most effective tools in the demonic arsenal. When we allow pride to take root in our hearts, it creates a false sense of self-sufficiency, leading us to believe that we don't need God as much as we think we do. We may even begin to view prayer as something beneath us, a sign of weakness or dependence. This illusion of control, this belief that we are the masters of our own destiny, can be incredibly seductive, lulling us into a false sense of security and distancing us from the very source of our strength. Lewis reminds us that true strength lies not in our own abilities, but in our willingness to acknowledge our need for God. When we approach prayer with humility, recognizing our limitations and our dependence on a power greater than ourselves, we open ourselves up to receiving God's grace and guidance. The Screwtape Letters serves as a stark reminder of the spiritual battle that rages around us and within us. Yet, amidst the sobering warnings, Lewis offers a message of hope. He reminds us that we are not alone in this battle. We have a God who loves us unconditionally, who fights for us, and who longs to commune with us through prayer. The key, Lewis suggests, is to recognize the enemy's tactics and to actively resist them. By embracing humility and surrendering our will to God's perfect plan, we unlock the transformative power of prayer and open ourselves up to the fullness of His love, grace, and guidance. C.S. Lewis, in his vast repertoire of writings, offers a particularly poignant anecdote in his autobiography, Surprised by Joy. He recounts a time of deep personal struggle, a period marked by spiritual aridity and a sense of profound disconnect from God. His prayers felt hollow, his faith wavering under the weight of doubt and despair. One evening, amidst this desolate landscape of the soul, Lewis found himself walking along Addison's Walk, a tree-lined path in Oxford he often frequented. As he walked, lost in thought, a profound shift occurred within him. He describes it as a sudden and unexpected experience of God's presence, a moment of piercing clarity and overwhelming joy. This experience served as a turning point in Lewis's spiritual journey. It reminded him that even in doubt and despair, God is present. It highlighted the power of surrender, of trusting in God's plan. Lewis realized his struggle with God had not been in vain. The experience was a reminder of God's faithfulness and the power of prayer. It instilled in him hope, understanding that dawn will break and God's love will find its way through. C.S. Lewis, through his profound insights, demystified prayer for generations. He reminded us that prayer is not about rigid formulas or spiritual perfection. It's about cultivating an authentic connection with our Creator, who welcomes us with open arms. Lewis's writings guide us through the complexities of prayer, encouraging vulnerability. His emphasis on sincerity liberates us from performance-based spirituality. We are free to come to God just as we are, with our doubts and fears. Lewis found fertile ground for growth, recognizing that in our moments of greatest vulnerability, we are open to experiencing God's transformative power. He encouraged us to view challenges as opportunities for deepening our faith and drawing closer to God. The Screwtape Letters reminds us that the battle for our hearts and minds is often waged in daily life. Distractions and doubts are tools the enemy uses to keep us from God's presence. Yet Lewis reminds us we are not alone in this battle. God equips us with faith and empowers us through the Holy Spirit. C.S. Lewis's wisdom offers solace, guidance, and hope. The journey of faith, though challenging, leads to transformation and a deeper understanding of God's love.